Welcome to the February 2025 special board meeting of the Everett Public Schools Board of Directors. Will the secretary please call the roll?
President Mitchell,
Present.
Vice President Herman,
Present.
Director Atkins,
Present.
Director Revelinsky,
Present.
Director Mason.
Okay, thank you. And just so that our audience knows, Director Atkins is here on Zoom. And then that moves us on to the adoption of the agenda. Dr. Saltzman, have there been any changes to the agenda since it's published?
Yes, Madam Chair, there's been one change to the agenda this evening. Item 4.01, study session 2, strategic initiative updates, presentation was updated.
Thank you. Is there any objection to the agenda being approved by general consent? Seeing and hearing none, it is approved by general consent. That moves us on to our study session. Mr. Buckenstein.
Thank you, President Mitchell, Board of Directors, and Superintendent Saltzman. Tonight, I'm excited to share with you our second of our board workshops on our strategic plan progress. Tonight, we'll be giving an update on 2 strategic initiatives. The format for today's presentation is about a 15 or so minute presentation with time from discussion to total no greater than 45 minutes per item. As we look at the 2 initiatives, we have 2 continuing initiatives. Well, one's brand new, one is continuing. The first is to develop and implement a process for monitoring effectiveness of essential practices. And you may recall an initiative last year that was the beginning of this work. This is its evolution into what is a very exciting time for Everett Public Schools about how we can continuously improve our practices and the learning of our students through this particular initiative. So I'm really excited for you to see that tonight, brand new. And then a continuance of cultivating a culture of excellence that includes career pathways and continuous growth for each group. Some great information coming to you about the work that we're doing to engage staff and all of our staff in developing a culture and pathways for action excellence. We will continue to have the same similar format as previous workshops, which you can see here on the screen. Of course, one of the most important aspects of improvement when it comes to strategic progress is the idea of progress monitoring and measures. So please look for that as a part of your discussion. And without further ado, I would ask Dr. Beckley to come to the podium.
Good evening, President Mitchell, Board of Directors, Dr. Saltzman. I am excited to share with you all an update on the strategic initiative that I lead on developing and implementing a process for the effectiveness of our essential practices, monitoring those. The objective of the initiative is to ensure that we have an accountability for our common district practices and our structures under the overall theme of having a consistency in our processes, as well as highlighting student success, supporting student success, while supporting differentiation and innovation. This is the first year, as Mr. Fleckenstein talked about, this is the first year of this initiative. I'm really excited about the work that we're undertaking and you'll hear about today. And I'm happy to report that we're on track. The exciting aspect of this work is that we are building something from the ground up. And it is something that is focused on our student priority outcomes. It is focused on that as our foundation of our work and with the strategic plan as our guide. And so we're starting from nothing and building something up, which is very exciting work. The work that this initiative team is doing is critical to the importance of our entire school system to positively impact student success and learning. To continue the great work that's taking place in classrooms across our district, we need to continue to address the learning gaps that exist. We need to examine our essential practices and our instructional practices that are taking place for their effectiveness. We need to focus on what those key essential practices are and then the measures that we should have to gauge their effectiveness. And so to clarify, when I say essential practices, which I'll reference throughout the presentation, this is something that we would expect to see across the system in classrooms across the district. So for example, an essential practice might be teachers using adopted instructional materials that are aligned to learning standards and the learning target of the unit and lesson. That would be something we would expect to see across the system, so that would be an essential practice. The work of this team, this initiative team, is having data measures that are linked up to those essential practices that can provide us information and help us determine what is needed. Being that we are about to use Synergy as we get ready to launch our new student information system, it is going to assist us in collecting and providing us data that we use to inform the system. And it will result in the progress where we can assess the effectiveness of our essential practices. It will tell us what professional development is needed, what resources we need to do, what we should invest in, because it will be based on need. That is evidence-based. It will be based on what the data measures are telling us. And all of these measures will be founded on our student priority outcomes of the strategic plan. The initiative work continues the work from last year and previous years, led by Callie Spear and her team. And you can see here some of the work that they outlined, what they accomplished as they engaged stakeholders in learning about aligning practices and structures to the student priority outcomes to ensure that those practices were linked to student achievement. They engaged stakeholders on system alignment and implementation of these practices. And so this is the continuation of the work that she and that team started. From this work that's been done previously on identifying essential practices, this initiative now shifts to answer the question, what are the measures we're going to use to determine the effectiveness of these essential practices? And so as the strategic initiative team has been meeting and sort of outlining what this would look like, we see this as really a 3-year plan. So we are in year 1 currently. And this has been the work that, and continues to be the work that we've been engaged in throughout the year about refining what those essential practices are that were identified in the previous work, refining those, updating those, and then beginning to identify what are the measures of those practices. And that's been the work we've been currently engaged in. Next year, as we implement our new student information system, we will begin developing and learning about the analytics module in Synergy. About as we collect these measures, what is it going to look like? What are the visual representations of these data measures? And so as we learn about that data and analytics tool in Synergy, that'll be available to us in Synergy, we'll begin to apply the measures that we're collecting as part of our initiative work this year to those visual displays in meaningful ways that's easy for people to access and to read. And that will lead us to year 3. And that will be the creation of taking these visual displays into one data dashboard. And we can have different versions of this the dashboard based on the audience, but it will be a tool, a district-wide dashboard that we will create with this foundation of what those measures would look like. This dashboard will have the measures that are linked to the essential practice with the student priority outcomes. It will be actionable data that will inform our practices and will highlight where additional supports might be needed, but it will also highlight what successes we see. And we'll be creating this dashboard with intentionality that we know has a direct connection to our strategic plan. And that's the exciting part about all of that data is going to be linked to student priority outcomes, measuring the effectiveness of our essential practices. This is another way to look at the kind of the immediate work, another kind of representation of what that would look like. Of the 3 main components of the work, the student priority outcomes, the identifying the measures, and the learning about the tools available to us with Synergy. At its core are essential practices, those things that we should be seeing across the system, across the school district and classrooms across the system, and ensuring we have these identified and there's correlating measures of what those essential practices are. So how do those practices link to student priority outcomes? How will we measure what those practices are? And how will they be displayed when we go live with Synergy next year? So this is another way to kind of represent the current work of this initiative team. It will be very important that we continue to engage stakeholders along the way. You see highlighted in red sort of the group of stakeholders we're currently the most engaged in on this initiative team. So that's been our executive and academic cabinets, as well as administrators, directors, initiative members that were involved in previous work, and their input of reviewing and highlighting those essential practices and refining those and aligning those essential practices. That's been part of that stakeholder group. But as we move into the next phase, like later this year, and into next year, we need to expand our stakeholders into our instructional staff, our teachers and certificated staff, our support staff as well, such as our instructional educators. That will be the next phase of our stakeholder engagement. In year one, we have 5 milestone deliverables and activities in this initiative. We started by meeting at the beginning of the year with the previous initiative team to review the work that they had completed to date on those essential practices, which I mentioned. And that became the foundation of our initiative team work. And over the next several months, we took that foundational work and had a series of meetings with stakeholder groups to review those essential practices and start to gather their input on the data measures. And we were asking them not only what are the data measures you're already collecting, but what are data measures we don't currently collect that would inform that essential practice. And that's been the work that's been currently happening, and that's a lot of our facilitators, directors, academic cabinet have been engaged in that work. So we have combined all of that feedback into an initial draft, which I then took back for review from our leadership team about those practices and those correlating data measures. As we look ahead, over the next several weeks, we'll begin sharing that draft with that expanded stakeholder group with instructional staff and support staff in building. And we'll continue to collaborate with our synergy partners as we begin to learn this spring about that analytics tool and that data tool. So we'll have those measures in hand that we sort of inform, and we'll be able to kind of visualize with our partners at Synergy about, okay, we want this measure to be visually represented. What could that look like? And we can really start that work, imagining what that would look like this spring. Some examples of the work that we've been currently engaged in are pictured here. At the center, I want to highlight is student priority outcomes. It's the foundation of our work and our strategic plan. All of the work of identifying essential practices and those correlating data measures link back to these student priority outcomes. You see at the bottom right, one of the work sessions with academic cabinet. I also, with the initiative team, we've had stakeholder engagement sessions with a little bit larger teams of stakeholder groups. This one pictured there happens to be the assessment and research team looking at the measures and the practices with their input. In all of these sessions, we are working towards a document that you see pictured here, outlining the essential practices of what we would expect to see across the district with the data measures that would inform that work. This is an example of the document of the student priority outcome of strengthening student wellness and engagement and safety. And it's just an example here. Currently, there are one of these for each of the student priority outcomes in its current draft form as we take it to our stakeholders to review. So as I shared at the beginning of the presentation, the big idea about this initiative is to create a system to assess the effectiveness of our essential practices and identify where supports are needed and highlight our successes. I want to give you an opportunity to kind of engage in this work a little bit, sort of to visualize and actualize what we've been engaged in with our initiative team to see the application of this work in progress as we continue through year one. So our work this year has been looking at the essential practices of what we'd expect to see across the district and the measures of those practices. What I'd like to do is have you take a few minutes to look at these practices and measures and then match them to a student priority outcome. So I'm going to give each of you a strip of paper. In a minute, I'll give that to you. And you are going to take that essential practice and measure. You see an example of one picture here on the screen. And you're going to think about where do you see that in the student priority outcome posters at the back? What essential practice and measure would that most match to? I will tell you that you're each going to get one, like you're not going to get one that's going to fit in 2 student priority outcomes. So
You're gonna be easy on us?
yeah, you're going to be able to, it's only one at a time. The purpose of having you engage in this work, I just want to highlight for a second before you get started, is there's a lot of great work that's taking place, and this matches the data of that work back to the student priority outcome. It's going to highlight the link of the essential practice and the data measure and how that connects back to the student priority outcome. To make this connection to kind of help you see what we've been working through about the practices we report to you on and the data measures you see reported to you on, and see how those are linked together. with the foundation of student priority outcomes, it's sort of putting that in one place. It's not an exhaustive list what you're gonna have, this is just a sampling, so I don't want you to think that's all of it. And I encourage you, if you need some help, we have cabinet members here that can be thought partners with you, as you do the activity. And so we'll just take a few minutes, I'm sorry, Director Atkins can't participate
Can I ask a question?
remotely.
Can I ask a question really quickly?
Yes.
Just to get back to how these were developed, you know, like, there's so many things that happen in a day. Like, did we really go, like, is it, like, what really is the most meaningful or like the most applicable, like, how was, like, essential? Because it seems like that, like, you know, I'm just thinking of like a Lean or Six Sigma of like, you're trying to get better, better, better. Where's the waste? Where's the, is that what it's trying to get to? Is how it's.
Like prioritize what's the most important essential practice?
Well, not even just like the definition, like essential practice, like what, like, you know, the teacher stand in front of the classroom and greet the kids. Is a behavior. Use of imagined learning for this is an essential practice. What makes a behavior become an essential practice? Or is there not, am I asking a question badly?
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you. So, you know, that was a question that the original team really thought about was, what is an essential practice? What makes an essential practice? And so some of it is evidence-based, research-based practices of what do we know about instruction that actually will make a difference? So for example, one essential practice might be engaging in science of reading-based instruction in elementary school to promote and ensure third grade literacy by third grade. So we know that what research says about how students unpack and learn to decode and learn to read. And we also know that we have evidence and we have data that supports strong instruction that is based in science of reading. So when we look at some of the essential practices in all of the content areas or other areas, college and career readiness has some very specific essential practices. These are practices that we look at that have been steeped in research, that we know that we have data that actually supports student achievement in those areas. And so those are the things that we're trying to help cultivate within the district to ensure that we have consistency, coordination, and alignment from end to end of the district. Does that clarify?
Yeah, it does.
I was thinking along the same lines,
Yeah.
is there's also measurable and non-measurable, and so it does get to so many elements of teaching and education that we're not necessarily gonna be able to pin down. But it's important to do those so that we can.
It is, and we think about measures both in quantitative measures, so things like an increase in student achievement on an SBA or on iReady. We also might think about measures of impact as well as measures of implementation. So if there are some intentional pieces that we're doing around MTSS, for example, or helping to students to close gaps or intervene with students in real time, those may be practices that we're looking for implementation evidence. So how many teachers are engaging in that practice? How many teachers went to the professional learning in that area? What evidence are we seeing of the actual practice in the classroom? And the correlative quantitative measures that might actually lead to a decrease in students who are not meeting standard or an increase in student achievement. So there are two kinds of measures, and we think about those with our strategic initiatives all of the time. How are we measuring implementation, and how do we also measure impact of effect?
Thank you. We're just, essential practice was like this nebulous thing. So,
Yes.
Is there a question? Ready to move on? Okay.
So yes, so you have little strips of tape.
Yeah.
That is, yes, and so just take a few minutes and see how you do. Again, we have thought partners from cabinet that can join you if you need. Some of these will be. But again, they're only going to apply to one strategic priority outcome.
English, math, for science, develop instructional materials, oh, that's science.
Okay.
Sometimes the essential practice, when you get to the measuring, it's a little more like this. Sure. No, I'm just-
It's a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah.
Okay, I hope I know what it is. I'm doing well in my head. I mean, I got it wrong. Tell me right away.
Well, I think there could be an argument for why that would be based on that, but that's good to know.
I do have the answer.
Oh, that's all. Oh, you know, that's so.
Well, measures are, the domains, language, cognitive. So, just. So it's.
Yeah.
I would probably say, I think it's long. Specific, with regard to students that are performing. And just, it's suggested. And you know, there, yes. Yes, yeah. So talk about. So this is really similar to experiment. Measure what is around attendance.
Yeah.
Okay, science. Yeah, she knows how to just keep words.
I wish I would have.
Okay,
What is that?
yeah, let me go back and have a seat. Thank you, regionals, Dr. Bolton, for helping me thought partners. So some of you keyed in on an idea that a special practice and a measure could fit more than one student priority outcome. I will tell you though, that, for example, what some of the conversation was, you could see it applying, especially where it talked about end of unit assessments, mid-unit assessments. When we worked on taking the essential practices and those measures with the content teams, we had the understanding, we knew they would be talking about the math end of unit assessments or the science end of unit assessments. You didn't have that luxury. So in working with our content teachers, they would be knowing about the use of how students are doing on their mid and end of unit assessments as it relates to whatever that measuring that essential practice is. Also the conversation, the questions you were asking, and Dr. Bowden illustrated about the difference between quantitative and qualitative data, that continues to be something that our team is, as we work on what those measures would look like, how do we create something that's really qualitative, but it's still important data? How would we collect that and then display that? So that continues to be part of our initiative teamwork. Right now, we're focused on that really quantifiable data measures, but the qualitative stuff is part of our conversation and our work as well. So I really want to emphasize just a brief little activity that you get lots of reports from Dr. Saltzman throughout the year. He brings teams to share with you board presentations that highlight the work that's happening around the district. I'm thinking about the continuous and stream of the IR report that reviewed with the board about highlighting with that, or college and career readiness presentation that reports on what's happening in the classrooms across the district. And you also get lots of data. You see lots of data reports. So all the data measures that you saw highlighted there, those are data measures you see in either in presentations or in Friday reports. So Dr. Saltzman has shared those reports and shared those data measures with you. And the work of this initiative and the exciting part about it is helping us link those things together. So it's not just reports and data measures separately, but it's really this data that we've been collecting and reporting to on is linked to essential practices. And those are found in the strategic priority outcomes. So it's very exciting work. As we sort of like the data that we're reporting on is going to make a difference because it's linked to student priority outcomes. So I do want to kind of highlight to you, so thank you for engaging with me on that. Highlight with you some a look ahead, just high level look ahead at the next 2 years. We're gonna be collaborating with our synergy team on those visual displays, as I mentioned. And the goal is to have that completed by the end of this calendar year, by December of 25. The next step over the next couple of months following that would be to engage with our leadership team on these data measures and displays to further refine those. And when I say leadership team, I mean at the central office as well as our school leadership team. We're going to use that feedback to begin creating the district data dashboard and combine those measures with those visual representations of what those data measures using synergy, integrating that into synergy. And the target would be to have that completed over that summer, so that when we start the 26-27 school year, I'll be able to work with the regionals and a cohort of principals to be able to use this dashboard draft with their school improvement planning at the beginning of that school year, to try to apply this in sort of real time as they're getting ready for their school year about how we can improve that. So when we start second semester, we've got it finalized. We've taken that feedback. It's been applied in the school improvement planning process, and we can implement something district-wide. Monitoring our progress is going to be important. This is an example here of how we manage and our initiative progress. It follows the run and show format that we use for our project management. We've modified that run and show document a little bit to include 3 main categories. What's our success criteria for each action or deliverable? What's the date that we want it to be completed, either a specific date or a date range? And then its category about where it's at in implementation. What you see here is the implementation sheet we have for year 1 that the initiative team has been working on. And in some cases, like the data measures and essential practices document, it's in place or partially in place with work getting some initiative additional feedback. Whereas the work with synergy, that's to come, that's in its planning phase. So we continually, as we meet, we continue to update this as well. Some of our immediate steps with this initiative work are to collaborate with other strategic initiative owners. Specifically, I want to highlight the MTSS and grading practices teams who you'll hear from next month on the intersectionality of our work. So they are these initiative teams with Mimi Brown, Michelle Waddell, and Dr. Woods, who you'll hear from. They are working on their strategic priority outcomes and measures that are linked to their work. I just want to make sure that this initiative team and the measures and the practices are in alignment with that, their work. So that's some of the immediate work, is to make sure we engage with other strategic initiative owners. And that additional feedback that we get from them are really valuable in informing our work. And then later this spring, as part of our student information project work, well, as I mentioned earlier, we'll be meeting with Synergy to be that planning phase in the spring of learning about that analytics tool and starting to apply what that reporting, what that will look like, which will be exciting. We'll be able to kind of look at some drafts of that, and that will happen this spring. So that's some of the immediate work taking place. So do you have any questions for clarification there?
I'm gonna go to Director Atkins first. I know you didn't get to participate in the little activity we did, but do you have any questions or comments?
No questions from me at this time.
Roman? Or John? Go
I
ahead.
think so, kinda. And maybe I missed how Tracy asked the question, but how do you can you give me some insight into how you decide whether something is essential or not essential?
Well, that's part of the initiative work from last year of identifying essential practices, so the work that they went in about identifying what those would be. The filter that we used, and Dr. Mo might want to chime in here as well, but in our initiative team is around what are the practices that are what we would expect to see across the system in all of our classrooms. Those are essential to support student learning.
So do we recall what was considered not essential? Like especially this learning, because especially this initiative, I'm thinking the teacher standing in front of the classroom is part of social emotional, it's that stuff, so some of it. But what was, like, was there something specific that was considered non-essential and we removed it, or did we change it?
I think the initiative team actually worked pretty effectively, not trying to look at what a deficit might be through that deficit lens of like what's not essential, but really focusing around creating common visions for instructional content. So what does a math classroom, a highly functioning, high quality math classroom look like? What's the instruction look like? How do students feel? What does student engagement look like in a high functioning, high quality math instruction classroom? And so the vision statements for each content area, ranging from math, our core math, science, ELA, all the way to PE, social studies, all of those different pieces. We pulled in groups of people and we developed vision statements for what does this classroom look like? What does instruction in this area look like? And the essential practices were pulled out and embedded in those vision statements, but pulled out so that we clarify, what does it look like for good math instruction? Is it just really good curriculum? That's a part of it. But if students don't engage with that curriculum in an authentic way, the good curriculum doesn't necessarily get you to where you need to be. So we talked about what are the practices that need to be in place, and there's usually a combination of those practices to help engage students authentically and get students into a learning environment that's going to allow them to thrive and achieve.
I modified your question, but I don't know if your question got answered.
I think I'm good.
And just to follow up, she mentioned the vision documents. It wasn't one of the strips of paper you had, but the vision documents that she referenced is an essential practice in science, math, ELA, that using the the developed vision documents for each of those content areas, they're really robust and they highlight a lot of specifics of teaching practices that should be taking place in the classroom that were developed as part of the work in previous years.
And so while it wasn't identified, let's identify the laundry list or the list of things that you shouldn't do. By framing it through, this is what we want students to experience in these classrooms, we identified here are the practices. And by default, it doesn't say, stand and deliver or drill and kill. I mean, there were some really intentional pieces that we said, we want to make sure students feel this way. We want students to engage this way. We want it to be coordinated and aligned with content area standards. There's lots of different components of the vision statement, but it doesn't list the non-essentials, but it really emphasizes here are the pieces that need to exist in an environment where we want students to thrive in that content area. Dr. Sullivan.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, Jen, I have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, it was a little related, wondering if previous performance data has informed, we can look around our district, which classrooms, which grades, which school systems, what's working really well, and how can we scale that up? And so what makes an essential practice? We can be looking at our own examples for that.
Precisely. In district data, out of district data, research, evidence-based fact, and consulting the practitioners, the expert practitioners in the classroom. What's working for students? How do you get authentic engagement in an Algebra 2 class? There are things like building thinking classrooms that allow students to expand, partner, collaborate, all of those really rich experiences that help them to not only do the math, but apply the math in a setting where they're going to be able to replicate that post-secondary situation.
I think also the definition of essential will be better clarified through the IR process. But also if you look at slide 10 for a second, you can go to slide 10. Okay, where the rubber hits the road for the essential question will be the third box and the fourth box. We get expertise in front of the kids are the teachers and the support staff. And then the whole thing comes together. So as the experts on this side of the house and the experts on this side of the house become one as a big sandwich. That essential question is defined through the lens of the teacher and the support staff. And I think that will give clarity to the public as well as us of the expertise in the classroom.
So I guess that's my last question really is the coaching up of the teachers, because I remember in IR I went to, where there was a classroom, same subject, a classroom that I just felt very uncomfortable in. And then a classroom like, well, I want to be in the kid in this classroom. So during the IR or the principal's rounds, you'll be coaching up that teacher that is doing the data dump or instead of let's engage, let's talk about this, the best practices. So that'll be part of the teacher's development as we move forwards too, because of those good examples. Getting not having that negative, but we need you to move towards this essential way of doing it. Is that what the goal is?
Yes, a little but.
Yes.
Okay. That's the goal, but the richness will be the expert teacher that you find now coaches the next teacher. So you're building a cadre of expertise within that building, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it becomes the richness of, hey, you as a colleague just strengthened me, but I'm really good at this. You're really good at this, and lo and behold, the whole grade level is really good at it. And as they move up to middle and high, the whole department. That's what you want to see in every building, which you're there, you're getting there, you're there almost. So I think that the big piece for the board, for the public tonight, is that third and fourth box come together at the end of the year, early next year. You got all four boxes, what I would say bingo, okay? Does that make sense?
Yes, and that's our immediate next steps is kind of moving into our school-based instructional and support staff to kind of take this work to them and get their feedback and input and buy-in.
Regarding the dashboards, and I know that's in the future, so there may be some intended for the public audience
Right.
and others that are more internal.
Correct.
Yeah. And then,
Yes, there will always be, if I was leading you to believe there's gonna be one single dashboard, it really depends on the audience. We'll have kind of public facing and then we'll have like the one for the regionals or ones for a building principal, but it will be full of really intentional data measures that will inform practices.
and that leads me to the next question of synergy, which I know works with a lot of districts.
Mhm.
And they already have these analytic tools developed and other districts are using them, correct?
Correct.
We're getting to that stage.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, we're working with them currently on what are the reporting features. And then they're going to produce for us some drafts in the spring of what those could look like. And we can start to kind of visualize how do we want to take some of these. We want to give our teachers and principals what they need for school improvement planning on day one. So we'll start building those reports this spring so that they'll have that for the start of the next school year as we work towards. So we're not going to sort of wait until next year to build some of those tools, but we'll start that now. So, yeah, we're excited about what this will look like. And again, as I mentioned at the beginning, creating it from the ground floor is very exciting work as we continue to engage more of our stakeholders.
Thank you.
So do I hand this off to Mr. Fleckenstein or?
Thank you, Dr. Bentley, and I appreciate your presentation. Just sum it up, that it's exciting work to know that we'll have, through the development of this initiative, how well we're doing on the most essential practices that are gonna move the district's achievement forward for kids, right? And as Dr. Bowden said, there's qualitative measures to that and there's quantitative measures to that. But I think Director Herman, you had said, but where we are measuring, we should be monitoring or something along that idea. And that's what improvement's all about. When you know that we're doing the work, we need to know how we're doing, and that's at the heart of that initiative. So next, I'd just like to ask, does the board need a short break, or would you like to power on?
Power on.
Okay, so next we have Mary O'Brien and Dulce Ruiz with their initiative on continuous growth.
We're just gonna pass out some materials for the activity.
Thank you.
Yes.
President Mitchell, Board of Directors, Dr. Saltzman, thank you for allowing us this opportunity to share our initiative with you this afternoon. Dr. Chad Golden is the executive sponsor, and we will be talking about cultivating a culture of excellence that includes career pathways and continuous growth for each employee group. We'll go ahead and get started with what our initiative is centered on. Advancing recruitment, retention, and career growth creates a stable, motivated, and high-performing workforce, which is essential for driving organizational success and securing sustainable growth in our organization. Building a workforce that reflects the broader Everett Public Schools community ensures different perspectives and fosters an inclusive learning environment. Advancing career opportunities for employees promotes growth, satisfaction, and retention by offering clear career pathways and professional development. Encouraging students to pursue careers in education helps build a sustainable future workforce by inspiring the next generation of educators from within the community. Partnering with universities to innovate teacher preparation and certification strengthens educator quality through improved training and certification processes that meet evolving educational needs. Developing creative solutions to staffing challenges, addresses staffing shortages with flexible and innovative strategies to maintain high-quality education. Retaining the workforce in Everett Public Schools ensures stability and continuity in teaching by investing in employee satisfaction, growth opportunities, and a supportive work environment. Throughout this presentation, you'll notice a light bulb icon appearing on some slides. This symbol will indicate the specific areas of work we're focusing on at that moment. It's there to help guide you and highlight the key points of our discussion. This work truly does take a collaborative effort, and this list showcases just some of the many partners that we collaborate with to make it all happen. Each one plays an essential role in supporting and driving this work forward.
Mr. Levinson mentioned earlier, our strategic initiative is ongoing. So of the deliverables that we have, working on our recruitment and transformational hiring practices. So this includes restructuring our hiring process to improve accessibility to candidates. It includes implementing a new screening process, updating our interview questions to better align with the UPS mission, vision, and core values, and as well developing a comprehensive school workforce plan. And then as well continue on with our Grow Your Own program. This is really focusing on recruiting and developing and retaining talent from within our UPS community. This includes staff, parents, to pursue careers in education, as well. This includes providing support, which training, resources to assist them to gain skills to be in order to qualify, or, sorry, qualifications needed to fill positions. And as well, continuing to work with our college and university community partners to strengthen our recruitment programs by providing access to higher education, scholarships, internships, residency, and professional development to build a robust pipeline of qualified candidates prepared to teach in our schools. And then as well, continue on with our Student Intern Academy. And this is really to provide professional growth opportunities for our student interns, so they get a opportunity to see what is professional development in Everett Public Schools, right? And for them to connect with the facilitators ahead of time, and that way they know what we provide in our district. And continue on with our district partnerships with retention strategies. This includes access to education, increased support for employees, and provide resources and supports to benefit the EPS learning community.
The deliverables outlined in this graphic organizer have moved from concept to action for this strategic initiative. They have been carefully operationalized to ensure effective implementation, and we are tracking progress against our strategic objectives. However, we realize that the work continues and adjustments can be made to the operationalized strategies as needed to ensure ongoing alignment with our strategic priorities. Throughout this presentation, we'll be highlighting 4 key areas of work. As we go through the slides, you'll see specific icons appear representing one or more of these areas. Please refer to your operationalized handout to follow along and reference the corresponding deliverables we're showcasing. And we went ahead and passed that out to you earlier. The first area we're going to showcase is the work we've done to transform our hiring process. The light bulb icon will highlight this focus area, which is about building a workforce that reflects the broader Everett Public Schools community. The green icon, on the other hand, specifically refers to our hiring practices and the improvements we've made in that area. Last year, I explained that we were conducting a recruiting and hiring equity audit by examining the hiring process to better understand system-level inequities in our hiring cycle. We spent this year transforming the hiring process and plan for implementation for the 2025-26 hiring season. Our core values served as the foundation to our work in recruitment and are essential to our success, helping us focus on our objectives, make informed decisions, and stay committed to our mission and strategic priorities. We are committed to recruiting a workforce that reflects our community as it fosters innovation, increases adaptability, broadens skill sets, builds cultural awareness and sensitivity, and reflects our core values of inclusivity and equity. Building a high-quality workforce is crucial for our long-term success, as diversity enhances performance and drives growth. This commitment also directly benefits students by creating a more inclusive and enriching learning environment, where different perspectives contribute to our mission to inspire, educate, and prepare each student to achieve to high standards, contribute to our community, and thrive in a global society. To ensure that our workforce reflects the aspirations of our broader community and student population, it is essential to track and analyze relevant data to measure our progress and identify opportunities for advancement through current and new practices that will bring and keep staff in Everett. The next 2 data tables illustrate the trends over the past 3 years. This is indicative of our commitment to continuous enhancement and lays a solid foundation for future advancements. You're going to notice in multiracial an asterisk, and I want to draw your attention to that. And it's because OSPI at the time the slides were made had not made that data available yet. By regularly assessing and reporting on data, we can hold ourselves accountable to our strategic objective and make informed decisions to further enhance our recruitment and retention efforts. This includes collecting data on demographic representation within our organization, employee engagement and satisfaction, and retention rates among different demographic groups. We are proud to celebrate the positive momentum with our paraeducators while acknowledging the continued effort required to ensure that every student in Everett Public Schools has the opportunity to engage with teachers who reflect their own identities and experiences. This work is essential in fostering a strong sense of belonging and driving academic success for our students. We are committed to building a robust infrastructure that supports the critical work of recruiting and retaining a high quality and diverse workforce. Ultimately, by focusing on this work, we not only strengthen our organization, but also enrich the experiences of everyone involved and contribute to a more equitable and inclusive community where employees want to work and stay in Everett Public Schools. I'm going to draw your attention to the next handout you have. It's a timeline for the transformative hiring practices. And we'll take you through our process that we engaged in this year. In October, we did an evaluation of our hiring process. We met with Auburn School District, who had engaged in this work earlier, to gain some insights from them, what they learned, the key steps they took, and the challenges they faced, and just their areas for improvement. And then we went back and we really reviewed the effectiveness of our current hiring process. In November, we addressed screening and interviewing. We created a new screening process to screen against the job description. We revised our interview questions and scoring rubrics, and we started to upload draft forms into Frontline Professional Growth. In December, we introduced, Dr. Golden introduced the new process to Cabinet. We piloted our interview questions with some of our hiring managers, and we solicited their feedback. We also designed new guidelines for our interview panels. In January, we continued to share the new process with different departments, our human resources directors and hiring managers, and we used that feedback to continue revising our process. This month, we've been finalizing all our frontline forms. Next month, we plan to introduce this to our hiring managers and train them. And we are working very hard to create a toolkit to help support them as we transition to this new hiring process. And ultimately, we hope for implementation when we begin our staffing process in March.
So like Mary mentioned, at the beginning of the presentation, with the operationalized handout, you will see the little light bulb. And I'm going to be talking a little more about the LEADER grant, which is Leaders in Education Advancing Diversity, Equity, and Racial Justice grant. This is through a nonprofit organization called College Spark. Everett Public Schools is part of a coalition with 4 school districts, 2 higher education institutions, and as well as 2 nonprofits and engaging as well with Native partners. So for the LEADER grant, the coalition that Everett Public Schools is a part of was awarded $1,050,000 for 6 years to increase our relationships, recruit and advance to bring more educators of color to the district. So this initiative is working and meets quarterly to engage with all different stakeholders at all different levels to ensure that we are providing and creating spaces and opportunities from students from all different board districts. As we know, a lot of our families and educators go between all our 4 districts. That includes Marysville School District, Everett Public Schools, Edmonds School District, and North Shore School District. So creating a coalition that regionalizes a lot of what is the idea to support recruitment and retention. So anybody who comes in knows that we're all doing the same thing, of making sure that they are being recruited and retained in ours. And for continuing on with the leader grant, these are the grant focuses for 24 and 25 and 25 and 26 school year. Currently we are working on creating a memorandum of understanding amongst the coalition, create and recruit an advisory council, conduct an equity audit of human resource practices, co-design and facilitate culturally sustaining professional learning, scale up and regionalize pre-service and management strategies, kind of like I mentioned earlier, and ongoing measurement of all staff and surveys.
The third area we're going to showcase is our partnership with Western Washington University. The light bulb icon will highlight the focus areas, which are about partnering with universities to innovate teacher preparation programs and develop creative solutions to staffing challenges. The orange and purple icons refer to our community partners and district partnerships. To help you better understand the details and the significance of this legislation, the graphic organizer breaks down the key elements, including focusing on shortage areas in ELL, bilingual, and special education, compensation for residents, 900 hours or pre-service clinical practice, stipends for our mentors, coursework designed in collaboration with the district. And right now we have 3 educators from our district teaching courses for Western, and developing culturally responsive teachers. We're going to share a 4-minute excerpt from a 15-minute video that Western Washington, along with PESB, the Professional Educator Standards Board, created. If you would like to see the full 15 minutes, we've attached the video link for you.
In the browser, the link doesn't work. I have in the browser video link. Easy.
I'm so excited to announce the launch of the Education for Inclusive Environments Teacher Residency Program, a partnership between Western Washington University and Everett Public Schools. For me personally,
I'm just going to pause for a minute because the 4-minute link, I guess, doesn't work. So we'll just show you an introduction to the video, give you an idea, and then if you'd like to look at the 15 minutes.
this has been the most meaningful initiative in my time as a teacher educator. As teacher educators, we understand deeply the importance of reducing barriers for student teaching candidates, building and maintaining a feedback loop between preparation programs and school districts, and preparing candidates to become lifelong inclusive educators. This innovative model of teacher education is expected to improve the quality and readiness of first-year teachers, increase retention, and significantly reduce special education shortages in our region. The world has changed since the pandemic and so have our schools. Teacher residency is a fabulous response to swiftly support and transform teacher education in a meaningful way. We at Western are proud to be leaders in this work and are grateful for this opportunity to create a sustainable model for inclusive education in the state of Washington.
My name is Kevin Rochus, and I'm very excited to talk about
the residency program in collaboration with Woodruff College of Education and Everett Public Schools. We have formed an incredible partnership with the Everett Public Schools to create these opportunities for teacher candidates who will be able to be in residency placements for an extended period of time, learn from experienced mentors, and increase our capacity in terms of meeting shortages in schools and building a future pathway for teacher education and being a model of education for the state.
I'm the principal here at Jackson Elementary, and so my role in the program is to work with my teaching staff to identify high-quality mentors for the residents, and then we'll work together to match residents and mentors. To have residents here on campus in our classrooms, it's gonna be fantastic as well. We're gonna get extra teachers as they're getting a chance to see in our classrooms what good teaching looks like. It's a great chance for our mentors to put their skills on display as well. So
I'm Kritika Basak from Boston. I have been working in the Everett Public School since 2020 as a general parent educator. And I fell in love with the profession of teaching. And I just wanted to work with kids forever. I've been meaning to go back to education for a long time. But finally that happened after my son graduated from high school in 2020. And I got to know that Western is starting a program, going to be a co-market, and it's going to be evening. I thought, this is my program and I want to do it.
As a former special education teacher, I understand how difficult this job is and how challenging it can be for districts to retain quality special education teachers. Many new special education teachers get burned out by the job. That is why Western's teacher residency program prioritizes real-world classroom experience so that residents can watch, learn, and practice their skills over time. Our program over doubles the amount of time student teachers spend in the classroom, giving them the skills and knowledge they need to be career ready on day one.
Hi, my name is Jody Mackey, and I am a academic program director here at Western.
I'll go ahead and stop. That should give you a flavor of the program. If you choose to access the entire video, our employee shares a bit more about her experience. Some of the other students share their experiences. Kelly Clevenger, our executive director of special education, shares, and then we have Dulce who shared also.
And is this available for the community so that they can learn more about this, or how can the community learn more about this partnership?
It is available on this PowerPoint, so they could access through this, but I'm sure we could also work on making it accessible on our webpage. We just wanted to go over some of the celebrations of our recent work this year. I did share a lot of our initial work with you last year, but the 4 elementary schools were identified. We've met with Jackson, Hawthorne, and Lowell, and we meet with Jefferson staff this week. Again, I shared that we have 3 of our staff currently teaching some Western courses, and that's Kelly Clevenger, Michelle Polkey, and Kat Gomez. We just hired 2 full-time residency coaches. Western just hired 2 full-time residency coaches, which is a great opportunity for these residents because they have 2 coaches dedicated solely to working with them. We've established a rapport with the legislators as an approach for ongoing advocacy. And we have continued our collaboration with our special education department, our professional learning department, human resources, and Western, where we're all contributing to building this program from the ground up. And we are going to be posting our mentor applications very soon. Just some measures to share with you. We have 17 in our cohort, ranging, the age range is from 19 to 56 years old, 8 non-traditionally aged residents, 6 are first generation, 4 are Everett Public Schools paraprofessionals, 4 are Everett Public Schools graduates, and 2 whose home language is not English. So we're going to take a minute to reflect on what we just talked about with the residency. I'd like you to take your whiteboards and markers And just take a second to think about these two questions. How would you explain the Western Washington University and Everett Public Schools teacher residency program and its benefits to some of our potential candidates? Or what stands out most about the residency program to you? Give you about a minute to think about that. About 30 more seconds. All right, we know we have one director on Zoom and 3 present. Would anybody like to share?
Director Atkins, would you like to go first?
Yeah, I can go first. Yeah, I guess I'll answer the second question first. And yeah, what really stands out to me about the residency program is just the opportunity it gives just young people that are interested in doing teaching to get some experience with our district. And with the Western and EPS teacher residency program and the benefit that potential candidates can receive, I just, again, really think that it's incredible, the opportunity for getting that experience and for especially getting paid for it. I know that some of these programs are challenging for folks to be able to afford, and yeah.
Thank you. My whole last year at pharmacy school was free work. Anyone else? Right, Jen?
Sure, just the importance of student teacher people that are going into the teaching profession to really have a genuine, authentic experience so that they can be successful and stay in the profession. So I love everything you shared.
Roman?
I think, boy, I'm not good at this. I think, you know, when I try to put myself in shoes of either the hiring manager or the candidate, what I think is, we're communicating to people that we want them to succeed. And, we're there for them, and we're doing and the residency program, amongst many other things, are deployed to help teachers do a great job. And you know, that's it. That's what it is in essence, I think, you know.
No, thank you, because I did see similarly the high support for those residents, but then also what a great opportunity for our schools, and then those that are up there teaching for their own development. And even to see, like, you know, if we are trying to recruit special ed teachers, for somebody to see Kelly teaching their classroom, go, oh, I might want to work for her. So it is sort of even a recruiting tool to have her up there. Thank you, that was kind of fun.
And all of our instructors have been receiving great feedback from the residents, so it's pretty encouraging. Yes, it's a mutually beneficial relationship on both sides, for sure. Thank you.
Now we're gonna talk a little bit more about community spaces and how that supports the retention of the workforce here in Everett Public Schools, as well as a creative solution for staffing challenges. So what Affinity Spaces really focuses on is on the retention of employees. These events are, have intentional partnerships with, different, departments and community members as well as union, in our district, specifically Human Resources, Everett Education Association, and our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, department, and these events are open to all employees. And the focus for Affinity Space is really about community healing and belonging. In the past, 2024, we had 2 events. In those 2 events, we've had 134 total participants. And, you know, as you can see, we have a little word cloud based upon the feedback of what participants have talked about for Affinity Spaces. We really, are working on how to, to provide them an opportunity to really share vision for what is for the future of Affinity, what does it look like to be retained in Everett Public Schools, and what can we do to increase our retention strategies, right? Especially for a lot of our staff who are high quality people we want to keep them in our district. And for next steps, for our initiative as a whole, we'll be implementing our new hiring process, like Mary mentioned, for 25-26 school year, which is streamline recruitment to attract our diverse candidates, aligning hiring practices with inclusive and independent bias standards, providing training for our hiring managers and hiring teams, and monitoring and analyzing hiring data. And continuing on strengthening our collaboration and teacher preparation programs, specifically the Western Washington Teacher Residency Program. You know, implementing improvements based on evaluation findings as a co-partnership, and expanding our pathways for underrepresented groups into teaching careers. Continue on with next steps, prioritizing our retention efforts for all employee groups, continuing to develop targeted retention approaches, enhance current retention strategies. This includes really building upon our Affinity Spaces, really increasing our attendance and participation in those events. And as well, expanding our Royal partnership, partnering with nonprofit organizations.
As we head into action, remember that enthusiasm and clarity around what excites us can fuel progress and help us stay motivated. The next steps are about turning today's insights into a lasting impact. As we move forward with the strategies shared today, please take a moment and just think about this. What excites you the most about the next steps in our recruitment and retention efforts? Could it be the new opportunities, potential challenges, or just fresh perspectives that have sparked your interest? Let's think about that for a minute. Anyone like to share out on Zoom or present?
I'm just gonna be bold and just say the potential challenges of the national threats. And I hope we can continue this work and keep our heads down and keep doing it. Because this is the right work to do. So thank you so much. And now if somebody wants to say something more positive, feel free. I think Charles put his hand up, so please.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge, I mean, to kind of what you were alluding to, is just going to be convincing folks to pursue teaching and education as a profession. You know, I really don't think that the current national environment it makes people particularly excited about teaching. And I think that that's going to really negatively impact us in the coming years, and is a big challenge that we're going to have to overcome.
You know, still looking for positive?
What excites me the most, I mean, when I think about Everett Public Schools, it's a great place to have a career and to grow and to provide for your own family. And we're really, I mean, just from hearing about the residency program, we're kind of on the cutting edge, you know, we're doing.
Yeah.
That's it, you know, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll add that. I feel like the opportunity to grow our Everett Public Schools family in just a really healthy way. I'm very excited about that, and I can't help but think about the importance of all that we do in our strategic plan, all the work that we do as a district starts with the people, and that's the work that this is doing, is getting those people to our district.
And our mission and vision drives our work, and we are going to stay committed to that. Thank you for the opportunity to share.
Well, definitely an exciting time to have the opportunity to become a teacher in Everett Public Schools and get the support that's necessary to develop a career. Dr. Saltzman, do you have any final thoughts on this topic before we wrap up tonight?
Sure, thank you. Thank you, board, thank you. Well, I think first of all, both presentations were awesome, especially with defined essential. And putting it back into our, on the ground, as I call it. And I had the opportunity to dialogue with Dr. Golden about Western Washington, great presentation by the entire team. But not every district does this. And what a great way to grow your own. So the paraprofessional in the video that's now going to educate, and that's what you want. That's what you want in the system. And for a residency program, when you graduate college and you start your first day of teaching, it is overwhelming, okay? Overwhelming. So it's really good that we're doing this support. What I say there is the strategic plan, aiding innovation at the same time. So kudos to the team for that, to the school board for allowing us to do this.
Well, I thank the board for your attention this evening and your engagement, and we'll be seeing you soon for workshop number 3. With that, President Wilson.
So this adjourns the Tuesday, February 20th, 2025, special board meeting.